Hi everyone, I'm Freddie.
And I'm Chantal.
And we're the authors of Here's
Her
Now Together. And we are so excited about this week, what? 13. And we're excited about the new video blog as well as our written blog. And Chantal, will you explain to what transition we're going through at this time?
Yes, well, Freddie and I, we discussed and we decided instead of doing a written blog and video blog, we're just going to do the written blog of what we're discussing in our book. So from this week forward, we're just going to have the video blog only. So we hope you enjoy this. So actually the videos are going to be a little bit longer because we're going to go into greater detail on the video now. So. And
also, if the ones of you that have not seen, we do have our written blog that's still on our
Tumblr. Here's Her Now Together.tumblr.com.
Yes, and so we're so excited. And this segment we're still on communication.
Right.
And one of the portion that we're going to talk about is,
well, this week we're going to talk about finding the root to the tree. And so we're going to go into a little bit more detail as to what we mean when we say finding the root when as it relates to communication.
Okay.
So Freddie's going to start off.
And when I look at this aspect and I look at the definition of a root, a root is something that grows underneath the ground. No one sees it. Exactly. It's like you're hiding secrets or you're hiding thoughts. And these are things that affect both relationships,
right.
Your individually as well as your wife. And when you come together, that becomes a clash if you do not identify your roots.
Exactly.
And when I use the analogy of root, I think about the big oak tree. It's beautiful. Everyone sees it on the outside. It's just strong and it looks great. But underneath, there may be some rotten roots.
Exactly.
There may be some broken roots, some damaged roots.
Exactly.
And that can affect over time that entire image of the tree.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times we put on masks, and I'm talking to men, we put on masks and we look healthy on the outside, but we're hurting on the inside.
Exactly.
And one of the aspects is that if the roots are not properly tended to, right. They can affect what the foundation.
Exactly.
And if you build your tree or you allow a weed to grow up and next to your relationship,
right.
It can destroy that foundation. So roots are very powerful. Yes, roots have the avenue of being a beneficial, of bringing nutrients into your relationship. So you have to be mindful of that. And Chantal's going to give her an analogy of the topic under the subtitle topic of communication, which is
finding the root. So basically, the personal example I'm going to give is that when Freddie and I first was married, and I went to the store, and it was a personal item that I was getting ready to purchase. But before I purchased the item, I felt, I had to call him, and I actually called him. And I was like, Freddie, can I get this particular item? And like I said, the item was maybe $20, $30, it wasn't nothing that was major. Mm-hmm. And, because of course, if it's big purchases, yes, you do need to discuss it as a couple. Mm-hmm. But it was something that I needed. And so Freddie was like, well, baby, no disrespect, but why are you calling me to ask me for permission to get this item? And I said, well, I want to ask you because I want to make sure that, that you don't get upset, that I'm spending, this $20 or $30. And, he was like, well, baby, is it a need? I'm like, yes, it's definitely a need. Right. And he said, well, baby, you don't have to call me, to ask me to get this particular item. So I was like, okay. And so, and then I began to think, well, why did I feel like I had to call him? Mm-hmm. And so then as I began to sit back and I began to realize that there was still a root of fear that I had never dealt with from my divorce. And, because when I was in a relationship prior to Freddie, a marriage, mm-hmm. And basically it was a very domineering, controlling mm-hmm. relationship. And I basically had to give permission to do everything. Mm-hmm. And so that fear was still gripping, that root of fear was still there. And so I was bringing it and carrying it over into our relationship. And so once I realized what it was, I was able to cut it and I was able to deal with it. And so from that point on, it no longer affected our relationship.
And one of the examples that I had to endure with Chantal, and it's under the term affirmation.
Yes.
And coming up in my previous relationships and coming up, I felt that I wasn't truly appreciated, yes. And for the things that I've done. And I realized that I would constantly say, well, did you see what I did? Did you like what I did? And she said, yes, baby, I always see what you do. And I didn't know it, but I still had a root of not feeling that I was affirmed or I was received for what I've done. Yes. And so these are some things that it affects so many relationships.
Yes.
You have to go back and look at the root. Exactly. Look at the history. There's a genealogy, and we use the terminology, a generational curse or generational pattern, behavior pattern that individuals do not want to acknowledge because that's something in their past. That's something that no one else sees. But if you expect for your relationship to grow, you must identify and convey that to your spouse so you can heal and you can trim back and you can make sure that those roots do not affect your foundation.
Because a lot of times when in relationships, when you come home and you're frustrated and you're upset with each other and you're coming at each other, really, that's not what really is going on. That's just the leaves. That's just the branches of what is really buried underneath. You may be frustrated at your job. You may be frustrated with your circumstances financially. You may be dealing with some things that you have never addressed, some roots that are still have never been addressed. And so what's happening is that you're seeing all this manifestation of leaves through frustration, through anger, you know, and the thing is that as long as you never deal with that root,
that's right,
you're going to continue to manifest those emotions and manifest those feelings. And so that's why we encourage you to look past the surface and dig deep and see what's really going on. What's really going on.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell that we are excited. We have so much information that we would like to put out in this short segment. We can't. Exactly. So, but we want to let you know that we appreciate you as the supporters, as the readers and the listeners, and we thank you from his,
her,
now, together. Thank you.